Hello, everyone, and welcome to the UDC Library webinar, Seeing Isn't Believing, Deep Fakes. My name is Megan Kowalski, and I am the Outreach and Reference Librarian for the UDC Library. I'll be managing the logistics for today's events, so the recording and the Q&A. So if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to drop them in the chat. As we go, we will have time at the end for questions, both recorded and unrecorded. The recording for this will be posted to the UDC Library's YouTube account after the event is completed, and you will receive an email with the link to the event. I am joined today by our host of today's webinar, Jacob Hopkins, so I'm going to hand things off to him. Go ahead, Jacob.
All right, thank you so much, Megan, for that introduction. Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is Jacob Hopkins, and I'm the Information Literacy Librarian here at UDC Library. Thank you for joining me today for this webinar on deep fakes. Seeing isn't believing. Here is a quick overview of what we're going to talk about today. We'll talk about what deep fakes are, how they're made, why people make them, and most importantly, how we can spot them. We'll also take a look at some of the broader impacts that deepfakes have on media, trust, and decision-making. So, with that agenda in mind, let's talk about what deepfakes are. At their simplest level, a deepfake is a piece of media, so something like a video, an image, or an audio clip that has been digitally manipulated using artificial intelligence, or AI. The term comes from deep learning, which is a type of AI, combined with the word fake to give us this new word, deepfake. Deepfake technologies, they can swap faces, mimic voices, or generate completely new people who don't even exist. Now, this technology is not entirely new. We can think back to photo editing. So first there was manual photo manipulation in things like darkrooms, and then later digital photo editing using software like Photoshop. You can also think about film and movie special effects as sort of like an early precursor to the deep fakes of today. And then even your favorite social media apps, TikTok, Instagram, Snapchat, they have filters that let you swap faces or change voices. But what makes the current state of deepfakes different is just how much more convincing and widespread they're becoming. And this is because of advancements in AI and advancements in facial recognition algorithms that make deepfakes not only easier to make, but concerningly more realistic, what some people call hyper-realistic. Now, I'm going to share a few examples of deepfakes with you today. And I want to start with one that I personally think is maybe a little bit more obviously fake. But I want to share it because it went viral online at the beginning of last year, 2024. And so maybe it came across your social media feed. And so I think it could be a good point of comparison for us too, as we look at a few other examples of deepfakes later. So with that being said, let's go ahead and take a peek at this video.
Hey y'all, it's Taylor Swift here. Due to a packaging error, we can't sell 3,000 Le Creuset cookware sets, so I'm giving them away to my loyal fans for free. If you're seeing this ad, you can get a free Le Creuset cookware set today. But just a heads up, there are a few rules. You must live in the United States and you can only get one free kitchen set per household. All you have to do is click the button below and answer a few questions. These will only be given out until the end of the day today, so don't hesitate. Supplies are running out, so get yours while you can. Thank you guys for all your support, and I hope you love your new cookware set.
Now, in case it wasn't obvious, that was not a real video of Taylor Swift, and there was no real Le Creuset cookware set giveaway. If you're like me, maybe you could tell that in the video clips of Taylor Swift, her mouth movements weren't matching the audio. But I think it could also be, pretty easy for someone who's just quickly scrolling on social media and not paying that close attention to maybe be tricked by this. So that's one example of a deep fake. Now let's talk a little bit more about how they're made. So without getting too deep into the technical weeds, here is in general an overview of how deepfakes are made. So they're often created with something called a generative adversarial network, or GAN. Basically, one part of the AI tries to create a fake image or a voice. That part's called the generator. Meanwhile, another part of the AI, called the discriminator, kind of acts like a coach. And the discriminator tells the generator, nope, that's not good enough, try it again. And so this happens over the course of thousands of rounds. And so here you can see sort of like a simplistic example of this. On the left, you can see the generator is trying to create a fake version of a dollar bill. And so its very first example is not very good, and the discriminator is easily able to tell that it's fake, and so it tells the generator, nope, that's not good enough, try again. It tries it again, gets some things better, but still very obviously fake. The discriminator says nope, and makes it try it again. This happens over the course of thousands and thousands of rounds, sometimes really quickly, in the matter of seconds, until eventually the generator creates a fake, in this case, a fake dollar bill that looks so realistic that the discriminator is no longer able to tell the difference between the fake image or the fake piece of media and an example of what that real thing is. What's important to know is that this technology is becoming more widely available. No longer do you need to be a computer scientist or a special effects expert to make a deep fake. And so that's why you've probably have seen them more recently online, whether you've realized it or not, especially in viral posts and in memes and in other places. And so why are deepfakes made? Well, they have their pros, but also their cons. On the more positive side, filmmakers can use them for a variety of purposes, such as dubbing movies in other languages, or for creating special effects. So a famous example of this is Martin Scorsese's 2019 movie, The Irishman, which used deep fake technology to, quote, de-age actors, meaning they used deep fake technology to make them look younger. So here on the screen is the actor Al Pacino. On the left is how he actually appeared in real life while filming this movie. And on the right is how the movie editors de-aged him or made him look younger using AI and deepfake technologies. Meanwhile, in the world of education, teachers are exploring different applications of deepfakes to teach students. So they're looking at using deepfakes to teach foreign languages, or perhaps to connect students with realistic depictions of historical figures. So here in the bottom right corner, this is a screenshot from a site called Hello History. It's an AI platform that invites students to, quote, chat with anyone from the past. So it uses realistic video and audio representations of famous people from history, such as Martin Luther King Jr., Marie Curie, or Salvador Dali, to allow students to simulate a conversation with those historical figures. And accessibility advocates say that deepfakes could potentially be a game changer in improving the quality of audio dubbing, as well as sign language interpretation. However, there is also a much darker side to deepfakes. So deepfakes can be used to spread misinformation and disinformation. They can be used to manipulate politics, run financial scams, and unfortunately, they can be used to harass people online. One of the fastest growing uses of deepfakes is to create non-consensual fake images of real people without their knowledge or permission. And this raises really serious ethical and legal issues, especially as deepfakes become more convincing and as it becomes harder for audiences to decipher what is real and what is not. So what do Robin Williams' daughter and Martin Luther King Jr.'s daughter have in common? Well, they're both upset that their father's likeness is being used to create fake videos of them in situations in which they were not actually present. So just within the past week, for instance, OpenAI the creators of ChatGPT, as well as the creators of Sora, which is a video generator. They announced the decision that they were blocking any deepfake creations resembling Martin Luther King Jr. And this came after a series of videos went viral depicting Martin Luther King, fake videos of him in situations that perpetuated racial stereotypes. So for instance, here on the left is a video, here's a screenshot from a fake video of Martin Luther King at a self-checkout. And in the video, he was seen stealing things without paying for them. And so that is an example of ways in which deepfake technologies are being used to depict people doing things that they never actually did. OpenAI blocked all uses of Martin Luther King Jr. in deepfakes videos in response to King's family and the criticisms that they directed towards OpenAI. Now, let's move on to a more practical part. How can you actually spot a deepfake? Now, like I've been mentioning, deepfakes are getting more realistic, and they're only going to continue to do so without any substantial form of government oversight or intervention. So I'm going to share a few of the current telltale signs to watch out for, but please note that these are subject to change, especially as the technological infrastructure that makes deepfakes only continues to improve. So number one, things to look out for. Deepfakes of people often have distorted eyes, eyes that look too glassy or glossy, as well as abnormal blinking patterns. So here on the left side of the screen, this is a deepfake image of a fake person. And if you look at this person's eyes, you can see that they're pointed in different directions, it looks like, and or they kind of just look, for a lack of a better word, off, like they're not quite right. There's also a little bit of background distortion up here by the hair, and we'll talk about that more in a moment. Over here on the right, you can see some stills from a deepfake video that is meant to resemble a news anchor. Sort of looks like Tucker Carlson to me. And researchers from the University of Albany examined this video in a study, and they looked at other deepfake videos as well. And they examined it to explain how current deepfake videos often struggle to replicate real human blinking patterns. So in this video, the fake news anchor goes over 6 seconds without blinking. Now, if I were to just tell you that fact, that may not mean that much to you, but when the researchers compared that fake video with examples of real news broadcasts, they determined that that's not how humans often blink, that we blink more often than what this fake news anchor was doing. So perhaps eye blinking, or the lack thereof, could be one way to identify a deepfake video. Albeit that definitely requires some, intense scrutiny in order to, figure out if something is or is not real. So we're going to talk about that in a moment too. Now, as I mentioned a moment ago, deepfakes will also sometimes have warped backgrounds or mismatched lighting, kind of like the subject in the foreground looks like they're out of place with the larger scene being depicted behind him. So here on the left side of the screen, this is a fake mugshot of Donald Trump. And if you look closely, the text on the background is scrambled, it's nonsensical, none of these words or numbers really make any sense. And likewise, if you look at the lighting on Trump's face, it doesn't seem to quite make sense with the lighting on the background behind him. Over here on the right, this is a video, a fake video clip of the Ukrainian president, Volodymyr Zelensky. And this video has used Zelensky's voice and his likeness, like his face and his image, to make it seem like he's calling for a Ukrainian surrender in the ongoing Russia-Ukraine war. I'm going to play a few seconds of this for us, but just note it is all in Ukrainian.
Любі українці, шановні захисники, бути президентом виявилося не так вже й легко. Я змушений приймати складні рішення. Спочатку я вирішив повернути Донбас.
So, as that video was annotating for us, the proportions of Zelensky's body are wrong, especially if you were to compare it to real images or real videos of him. And you may also be able to tell how the lighting on his face doesn't seem to quite match the lighting on his neck and the rest of his body. And the rest of his body, as the video also pointed out, remains really robotically still for the whole video, kind of uncannily in a way that doesn't seem quite real or quite human. Lastly, deepfakes and just AI-generated content in general, they're notorious for struggling with some of the smaller details of human bodies, including hands, feet, fingers, and mouth movements. So in this fake photo on the left of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, if you were to zoom in closely and really scrutinize it, you would see that Harris mysteriously has 6 fingers. And then let's also watch this short fake video of Barack Obama. Oh, oops, that is not what we want to do. Let me try to pull this up for you all. Sorry for the delay.
Now,
all right, let me stop sharing for just a moment and reshare.
you see, I would never say
Ooh, and sorry, y'all. Let me just make sure you all can hear the audio too. And okay.
now. You see, I would never say these things, at least not in a public address, but someone else would. Someone like Jordan Peele. This is a dangerous time. Moving forward, we need to be more vigilant with what we trust from the internet. It's a time when we need to rely on trusted news sources. It may sound basic, but how we move forward in the age of information is going to be the difference between whether we survive.
And so I personally think that this is a good example of how much more realistic deep fakes are becoming. Now, knowing that that's a deep fake, there's definitely things that I can notice that are sort of a little off. Like maybe Obama's mouth movements don't quite match exactly what it is that is coming out of his mouth. But I think part of the reason why I'm able to recognize that is because I know that this is a deepfake video. It tells me right at the top, Barack Obama deepfake. So what I hope that you all are seeing is that, yes, there are warning signs for when we're looking at deepfakes. However, they're not always obvious. Sometimes they're very imperceptible, and if you're just quickly scrolling on social media, there are things that won't always stand out to you. So with that in mind, and knowing that deepfakes are only going to get better and more convincing, what are some of our other defenses against deepfakes? Well, number one is something called lateral reading. Lateral reading means leaving whatever site you're on and going elsewhere online to find more information. This is going to help you verify or maybe debunk facts, and it's also going to help you find other ways that the piece of media that you're looking at has been used or talked about before. So let's say, for instance, I come across the fake video of Volodymyr Zelensky surrendering online. Maybe I find it on TikTok or on Facebook. Now, before I before I share that video to my own feed and comment on it and say, wow, look at this, I should stop pause, leave the site I'm on, go to another site through Google, and simply try searching for Volodymyr Zelensky video surrender. When I do that, immediately all my top results are for more reputable news sites like NPR and BBC, as well as educational organizations like UC Berkeley that are immediately explaining to me that this video is fake. But now let's say that there wasn't much reporting on this video. Maybe it was only recently posted, maybe it only has a few likes and shares so far, and there isn't much news on it. I could also try searching for the general topic of the video, which in this case would be the Russian-Ukraine war. And I get recent news results right here at the top that don't suggest anything along the lines of Ukraine surrendering, which I know would be breaking news in a big headline if it were in fact true. Here are a few other online tools that you can use to support your lateral reading. For images, you can try a reverse image search using sites like Google Images and TinEye. These will help you track down the original source of an image and also show you where else and how else it's been used before. You can also check out popular, reputable fact-checking sites, including Snopes, the News Literacy Project, and PolitiFact. These sites keep track of viral disinformation, and they're there to help you separate fact from fiction with reputable, credible sources. Lastly, there's a site called Know Your Meme. This is an internet database of popular memes and online trends. And I think that this can maybe be useful if you're trying to understand if a piece of media you're looking at is meant to be taken genuinely, or if it's simply a joke or a trend that a lot of people are playing into. Lastly, always remember to ask yourself, who's sharing this and why? What could be the impact of them sharing it? Deepfakes often try to demand urgency and to exploit your emotions. Think back to that original Taylor Swift Le Creuset cookware video, right? That deepfake wanted you, one of Taylor Swift's #1 fans, most loyal fan, to act quickly, act today before supplies run out. That sense of urgency and that use of your emotions is often a sign that something is not quite right. And so why should we care about deepfakes? Well, the biggest issue, as I hope you've seen, is trust. If people can't believe what they see, it undermines journalism, public debate in politics, and even personal relationships. Deepfakes can be used to sway elections, to spread financial scams, or to ruin someone's reputation off of false information. And it's not always just about whether something is fake. It's also about this thing that people call the liar's dividend. That's when real, authentic, human-made media gets more heavily scrutinized or simply dismissed or ignored as fake, simply because people now know that deepfakes and AI-generated content and misinformation are so saturated. So in other words, deepfakes, yes, it blurs the line between real and fake, but it also makes us doubt a little bit of everything. Visual literacy, or knowing how to question and verify what you see, combined with information literacy, which is understanding how, where, and why information is being shared. Those are some of our strongest protections against deepfakes. And those are defenses that we can rely on even as the technology that creates deepfakes continues to improve. Now, of course, if you ever have any questions or doubts about the media you encounter online, UDC Library is here to help. We can also share additional resources with you on media literacy, as well as digital safety. So with that, I want to thank you all for your time today. I now want to open up the floor to any recorded questions. We'll also have time afterwards if you prefer to ask your question unrecorded.
you so much, Jacob. It's a really important topic, given that it seems like every day there's a new piece of technology that's making deep fakes. And even the fun stuff, like I admittedly almost fell for the one of a possum getting surprised by a Halloween decoration when it was stealing candy. It turns out that was a deep fake. So, people make them for all sorts of reasons. So, like Jacob said, we're open for any questions you may have. Feel free to drop them in the chat or raise your hand and you can take yourself off mute.
What was the last word? UDC Library, is it ask@udclibrary.com or what? I wasn't sure if I got it. It went by too fast.
Yes, it is ask at I should know it's ask@udc.libanswers.com. I'm gonna drop that in the chat for you.
Yeah, I
Lib
already got to
answers.
it.
Oh, okay.
Yep. There we go. Thank you, Megan.
Yeah, it's also available on the front page of our website. It's right there in the contact us box.
Okay, thank you.
Bradley over at the law school, the law library. How was everyone this morning or this afternoon?
How are
actually?
you?
Doing well, thank you.
I'm good. You mentioned sort of the good that can be accomplished, particularly in, the movie industry and that sort of thing. And I guess it's one of those things that in some ways, since we all don't make movies, we're not trying to make Robert De Niro look younger. I have to admit, I'm having a hard time really seeing where kind of normal people like ourselves, I
Yeah.
guess, could use this for good. I know I'm a lawyer. That's what we do, is be suspicious. But do you have some other examples of maybe the good side, and maybe I don't have to be so fearful about it?
Yeah, and I'm struggling to respond to you because I actually struggled to compile some of those advantages of deepfakes when I was creating this presentation. I think as educators, there is the possibility of us being able to use deepfakes to engage students in new ways. But as you've seen, even those sites like Hello History that can let you create a deepfake of historical figures, well, what happens when people create deep fakes of Martin Luther King Jr. in that perpetuate racial stereotypes. Yeah, I'm still struggling to think of practical, everyday, beneficial uses of deep fakes myself. Megan, do you have any ideas of a good use of them or a safe use of them?
I think one safe use is, and that I have seen, is some professors at some universities, I've not seen this at our university, will take video lectures they record and then have a deep fake translate that into another language, just to give that sort of presence. So students aren't having to use a translation app. It just seems a bit more natural. That said, some people would still be like, yeah, that's a little iffy. I mean, the whole thing with deepfakes is they're all a little iffy. There's also something to be said for sometimes fun videos are just okay. Like I said, I was bummed to find out the opossum video was fake, but it's not necessarily hurting anyone that was made. So it really does depend. It could be possible that someone who is at the end of life might want to record videos, like say they're going through medical treatment and they know they're not going to be there for their kids in the future. They might be able to record or write some video that then their video can be recorded into text for messages to pass on. Again, that's, opting in. I think the good comes from if all parties involved have opted in to this sort of situation. It's that consent thing. The problem with deep fakes is so many of them are made without consent. And we're still figuring out this technology as we go. So could some new uses come along that are generally positive? I'm sure there could be, but like you, I am also skeptical.
Well, and over here, we're really those legal implications, that the whole thing, like you say, without consent, and that this, it's if you give consent to do A, does that extend to doing B? And so it's going to keep a lot of lawyers busy for a very long time.
Yes. And that's a
Yes.
good segue for the question that's in the chat, which is what are the legal remedies if someone uses my images in a deep fake? I will say
Yes.
explicitly, we are not lawyers, so do not take this as any sort of legal advice. But this is something that is currently being hashed out in the courts. There is copyright law. If someone takes your images and uses it without consent or agreement or licensing, you have the ability to sue them. But what stands up in court when many of these AI models themselves were trained on stolen material?
Yeah, and I'll also add too that so of course I'm also not a lawyer, so I can't necessarily give legal advice, but of the cases that I have seen brought to court involving non-consensual deepfakes, the ones that tend to get the most media attention as well as maybe the most support for the person who had the deepfake created of them tend to be those that involve libel or slander. So when you are purposely damaging someone's name and reputation based off of, lies, as well as cases in which the person creating the deepfake is making some sort of profit off of that deepfake. So actors and other performers and artists have successfully, in some cases, made their case that their likeness cannot be used to create other movies or content because people are making money off of their own image and voice. But
And
as
then
Megan says, it's all very much embroiled in ongoing legal challenges right now. And as deepfakes continue to improve, those legal challenges will only get more complicated and complex. AI companies, I don't want to speak for all of them, but a lot of them have taken the approach of beg for forgiveness later instead of asking for permission first. And that's an issue across the board with AI, not just with deepfakes, but with all sorts of issues that intersect with AI.
And depending on the use of the image, like if it is your personal photo or your personal video, then used to create a deep fake for the purposes of explicit harassment, that would fall under things like harassment laws. And there are parallel litigations to this under revenge porn laws, where people's private photos have been used as a form of harassment, and that has consistently been upheld in court as illegal. And so some of these do have parallel existing laws, but again, policy and law are slow. And so a lot of this, they're still trying to figure out social media and how long has that been around? So AI is you know, complicating things even further. And it doesn't help that those who pass policies and laws tend to be far removed from the technology of this, so that lack of understanding of how these things are made and used complicates things even further.
And I think these questions will only continue to blossom as Sora, which is the app I mentioned earlier. That's OpenAI's video generator. I believe right now it's invite only, but I expect that they want it to be as popular as their other major tool, which is ChatGPT, which has become, pretty ubiquitous. So I think it's going to be something that's going to be top of mind in this year and the years going forward.
Any other questions? Hey, not seeing anything. I do want to say thank you for attending today. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording in case anyone has any questions they'd like to ask unrecorded.